Hello, I'm Brendan Perring and welcome to Day 2 of the FuturePrint Virtual Summit 2020. Following this news bulletin, I will be joined by Fraser Chesterman, one of the founders of the summit, to discuss the IPA's market research and our work with government over the last few months. So, to kick off, Meteor Inkjet Limited has announced a new solution for Epson's S1600 and S800 precision core printheads. The leading supplier of electronics, software, tools and services for industrial inkjet announced its partnership with Epson last year, designed to help further drive the adoption of digital printing technologies. The new solutions are the latest developments within this partnership and demonstrate both companies' commitment to supporting the industry and its industrial inkjet print systems builders on the journey to converting analog to digital. Epson precision core printheads are renowned for enabling outstanding image quality, productivity, durability, and printhead scalability. The S1600 and S800 are built with the same thin film piezo building blocks as the existing S3200 and have been developed in response to customer requests for smaller printheads. The S1600 is ideally suited for carriage mounting in scanning applications, while the S800 is designed for direct-to-shape applications. Jonathan Wilson, Meteor Sales Director, stated that Meteor's electronics and software provide the fastest and easiest way to unlock the potential of these new printheads. To ease integration and ink optimization, we also offer drop watching systems for convenient visualization and characterization of drops in flight. Meanwhile, Duncan Ferguson, the Vice President of Epson Europe, added in his statement, Epson and Meteor are collaborating closely to ensure Epson's unique precision core printhead technology can be integrated easily into industrial printing engines for multiple applications. The role of Meteor in providing high quality, reliable electronics to drive Epson's industrial inkjet printheads is paramount to this effort, and we welcome this broadening of the available drivers from Meteor. Next, Global Graphics, the Cambridge developer of technology for digital print, has announced the launch of what it calls a new class of print software for the next generation of faster, wider, high-resolution digital presses. Called Direct, the solution is a new graphics pipeline that sends data directly to the printhead electronics instead of writing it to disk. According to the company, this reduces image processing time significantly, enables a press to handle large volumes of data with ease, as well as accelerating the time to print. Designed to be part of a full automated print solution and supporting Industry 4.0 telematics and integration with PLCs and MIS systems, Direct ensures that as data increases, the capability of a press is not limited and needs no further updates to meet requirements. Now, in news that has created a lot of industry debate, Bob's has recently announced its decision not to attend Drupa industry trade shows in 2021, with its announcement coinciding with that of Xerox, who had likewise explained the reasoning behind its cancellation. Bob says that it will utilize their innovative ways to engage with customers and reduce its environmental impact. According to the Swiss global supplier for the label, flexible packaging, folding carton and corrugated industries, Bob's has started to virtualize its customer experience with live streaming demonstrations across all equipment in its existing competence centers. Apparently, this will provide an engaging customer experience while enabling the company to engage with customers in a quicker, more effective, and more personalized and sustainable manner. Xerox gave a statement with the publication of its decision, which reads, given continued uncertainty around holding large events during a pandemic and our own schedule for production introductions, Xerox has decided not to participate in the Drupa 2021 trade fair. So, in a trend that is playing out across the globe, European thermoforming packaging company Wallington Europe has partnered with long-standing customer and partner Ricoh 3D to provide supplies of personal protective equipment for the NHS. Mark Dickin, additive manufacturing and molding specialist at Ricoh 3D, commented on the news, our site is uniquely set up to take a product from concept to prototype to serial production. And that is exactly what we have done here in a very short time frame. We are seeing reports of nurses' faces being cut and bruised by their existing protective equipment. Our frontline workers are battling enough already, without having to tend to sore and swollen faces at the end of a 12-hour shift. We knew our polypropylene material was ideally suited for the job, with its flexible, lightweight, watertight and fatigue-resistant nature, given its comparable properties to injection molding. We had no doubts that this was the right material to support transition to full molded production. Jason Pott, lead research nurse for medical medicine at the Royal London Hospital, added, "In our tests, staff commented on the comfort of Ricoh's solution over existing equipment. We tested across a range of male and female staff in the emergency department with different head shapes, hairstyles, and headscarves. Everyone was happy with the fit, and innovations like this help staff in the NHS to remain safe while caring for those in need." So also everyone on the call, I'd just like to draw your attention to the poll that is on your screens now. The first one, question of which is, when do you feel you will next be able to attend international trade shows? And the next question is, when do you feel you'll be able to attend your next national trade show? So you'll be able to address those and answer those questions and have the feedback after the event. So in a further example of our industry stepping up to the plate, from mid-April, Durst has been producing masks with an integrated filter function for industrial work environments on the textile printing and processing systems, which are located in the demo center in Brixton for customer demonstrations. Durst has many years of experience with filter systems, as these take on a kind of cleaning function in the printing press to filter out microparticles in the ink supply systems so that the print heads do not become clogged and are already ready for use. Meanwhile, major sector player Zund has also joined the fight with its Community Mask Initiative, which have a certified filter membrane type N95 with hydrophobic properties and a microporous structure. Despite the high filtration efficiency of up to 95%, they are particularly breathable and suitable for longer wearing. In another impressive redeployment of existing technology to assist with the battle against COVID-19 infection in healthcare settings and public spaces, the Sub-Zero RS170 is the latest product in the portable. Hang on a second. There we go. So I'll just start that again. In another impressive redeployment of existing technology to assist with the battle against COVID-19, infection in healthcare settings and public spaces, the Sub-Zero RS170 is the latest product in the portable UV program from Integration Technology and follows the 2019 launch of the AC850 series of portable handheld high-powered LED units for curing, fillers, primers, and coatings. Its target applications include ambulances and blue light services, buses, aircrafts, and cruise ship cabins, train carriages, and other public transport and hospital, schools, offices, and hotel rooms. Now, onto one of the industry's largest brand names, HP, and another ingenious use of existing technology to assist those on the front line. As it is difficult to see faces behind medical personnel protective equipment, many patients, especially the elderly, were finding it a frightening and alien experience. Two medical students took to Facebook in order to call for photos on the medical COVID-19 suits and gear. The page attracted the attention of HP Indigo team employees who helped launch the product by supporting the printing of the first 70,000 photo stickers. To date, 200,000 photo stickers have been printed by HP and print partners and donated to an estimated 2,000 medical personnel at 16 hospitals in Israel. Nissem Asayag, founder of the project, along with fellow student Anat Skila, commented, "The doctors were very excited that they feel more comfortable getting close to patients with the ability to introduce themselves, and the patients were also very moved." In addition, the photo stickers help medical staff identify each other for better teamwork. The 5.8 by 8.3 inch size photo stickers feature a smiling face with their name and function. The medical teams stick them directly on their protective gowns and then dispose of them at the end of the shift. Now, looking to the long-term management of the pandemic, Flyer Alarm is now offering products coated with a water-based antimicrobial varnish, which the company claims has been shown to destroy almost all known germs. The varnish is intended to make the company's Back to Business campaign, which includes items as varied as business cards, flyers, folder leaflets, and stickers, safer for businesses restarting marketing and communications activity. Tested by the Munich-based Fraunhofer Institute, the varnish contains an antimicrobial agent discovered at the University of Regensburg and activated by visible light and oxygen on special photolytic dyes in the varnish. The tests, which were carried out according to ISO 22196 on paper and cardboard, found that the varnish was effective against all presently known bacteria, viruses, multi-resistant germs, fungi, and spores. It showed an ability to kill 99.5% of germs. The photocatalysts within the varnish are neutral in color and non-toxic, posing no threat to health. It is therefore able to provide 1 year of protection for a range of graphic applications, including food packaging, hygiene products, and printed matter that goes through many hands. Divyesh Chotai, Flyer Alarm's country director for the UK, commented on the release of the news, "Naturally, there is a heightened awareness of these kinds of issues in the current climate, but these advances follow naturally from the wide-ranging antimicrobial research activity that has long been around the world. The passing of print from hand to hand is a well-known means by which bacteria is transported, and reducing germ transmission has always been important. We are pleased now to offer this scientifically proven solution for customers looking to source self-sterilized printed matter." Moving on to the next item today, the government's coronavirus loan scheme for large businesses has been increased from a maximum of £50 million to £200 million. But a raft of new restrictions have also been introduced around dividends, bonuses, and executive pay. On May 19th, the Treasury announced that its coronavirus large business interruption loan scheme, designed to help bigger businesses, would be increased to a maximum loan size of £200 million. And the new loans are now available, and firms can borrow up to 25% of their turnover up to that cap. The scheme previously had two options: loans of up to 25 million for firms with sales of between 45 and 250 million, and loans of up to 50 million for firms with sales of more than 250 million. This also supports the government's initiative and rollout of the bounce back loan schemes, the top-up grant schemes for regional businesses, and regional grant schemes to help businesses back onto their feet following the COVID-19 pandemic. The government said it would help large firms specifically that do not qualify for the Bank of England's COVID corporate financing facility, have enough finance to meet cash flow needs during the outbreak. However, there are caveats in relation to future dividends, share buybacks, and bonuses. In a statement, the Treasury commented on the scheme. Companies borrowing more than £50 million through CLBILS will be subject to restrictions on dividend payments, senior pay, and share buybacks during the period of the loan, including a ban on dividend payments and cash bonuses except when they are previously agreed. These restrictions will also apply to CCFF participants that wish to borrow money beyond 12 months from today. This will also ensure that the money is used to keep the company going through the crisis. Just to be clear, borrowers cannot make any dividend payments, and the borrowers need to agree any share buybacks, and with regard to executive pay, borrowers cannot pay any cash bonuses on award or any pay rises to senior management, including the board, except where they were declared before the loan was taken out. This is in keeping with similar payments made in the preceding 12 months and do not have a material or negative impact on the borrower's ability to repay the loan. The Treasury also announced that more than 32 billion in loans have been made so far through the various loan buyback schemes. This includes 268,000 bounce back loans totaling £8.3 billion, which is more than 6 billion made up of 36,000 loans. So on to other news today, and the printing charity has stepped up the rollout of its practical and emotional support helpline to SMEs. In response to the unprecedented financial and emotional impact of the coronavirus outbreak, the charity is extending its free, confidential helpline service with a particular focus on UK SMEs in the sector, enabling them to give their staff the type of employee assistance bigger organisations can normally provide. The helpline offers in-the-moment counselling from counsellors accredited by the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, as well as guidance from information specialists. The free service covers a range of areas from dealing with debt and housing issues to addiction and stress. Speaking on the launch of the scheme, its chief executive of the printing charity, Neil Lovell, on your screen now, said, "We had planned to introduce our helpline through a phased rollout to SMEs over a longer period. But since this pandemic began, we have changed and our plans to make it available to more businesses in our sector. We're keen to hear from UK business owners and managers who want to provide staff with emotional and practical support through our free and confidential helpline. We need their help to make their employees aware of what it offers, whether their staff are on site or on furlough. The helpline is available to an employee's immediate family members as well. In these times of great uncertainty and change, we know many people are feeling overwhelmed, so access to practical and emotional support is vitally important, not just for today's challenges, but also for what is coming next." The Independent Print Industries Association, of which I am General Manager, has been using this helpline, and I can report that many of our members have found it incredibly useful, beneficial, and supportive for their staff in need of emotional help. Now, moving on to the final item of today's bulletin before we join Fraser, in a clear indication of the critical need to be operationally flexible, print businesses across Europe have redeployed their technology and skills to diversify and ensure the future of their businesses. From functional sportswear to combating the spread of coronavirus, Energiapura, an Italian manufacturer of clothing and accessories for ski racing and snowboarding, has leveraged its know-how and technology to conceive and develop in a very short space of time a protective mask that meets Class 1 medical device requirements. The EPPA 2020 facial device, optimized for air filtering and breathability, provides many hours of protection while working and can be reused. But the manufacturer has gone even further, branding and customizing the mask with sublimation printing using its Mimaki JV300 wide format inkjet printer, a real workhorse that many companies in our industry will know of. Another Mimaki user here in the UK has also combined its printers, carpentry, laser cutting, and CNC techniques to likewise join the fight. Inspirawood is offering a range of imprinted wooden products from stationery and business cards through to signage, point of sale, and trophies. The Teignmouth-based business made it onto BBC News even as a result of its Wooden Rainbow charity campaign. "We're hoping to spread a bit of happiness and positivity," Inspirawood's Pete Williams told the BBC, before he added, "We had a friend who works for the NHS in Torbay, and we felt really bad that she was working her socks off during long days while we were doing not a lot really." The £4 rainbow keyrings are printed on sustainable birchwood using the company's Mimaki JFX 200 2513 LED UV flatbed printer, and all profits will go towards 3 charities: Age UK, a local food bank, and NHS charities together. So that now concludes the end of today's news bulletin, and we will now move into the next session where Fraser Chesterman from the Summit and I will discuss the work my organisation has been doing with the UK government over the last few months and the market research we have conducted that has been fed into policy making.
Thanks, Brendan. That was fantastic. Kind of just run around all the major innovations that particularly that print manufacturers are coming up with in this current crisis. So really nice to see that. Hopefully some good ideas shared amongst the participants today. So yes, we want to get straight into this because I know that just you want to cover off a few of the key points that came out of your research. And it's a two-part element, two elements to this, which is some of the kind of general feeling about how COVID is impacting on business, and then a little bit more specifically about how government has helped us kind of get around this. So start with this first slide. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. So at the very start of the crisis, we were contacted. We sit on an industry panel called the GPMA, on which we have a representative from government, from the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. And as the crisis started, they reached out to industry associations, trade unions, and business organizations to ask them to do immediate impact research on the market so that they could understand how bad the effects of COVID were. So on this first one, as you can see on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high, how concerned are you about the long-term financial implications of COVID-19 on your business? And as you can see there, number 4 and number 5, 28%, nearly 45% were highly concerned, even in the first 2 weeks, about what it would do to their business.
Yeah, yeah. And then how does that move on to, obviously we've kind of gone through a little bit of that first curve situation. How did that, okay. So specifically you asked about staffing and reduction in business activity leading to kind of immediate action. A lot of people obviously put people on furlough, didn't they? So fill us in here.
Yeah, I think, again, we'll come on to the after, because the second piece of research we did was how people then moved to use all of the government subsidies and support. But we were getting questions, for instance, on this, we were having questions from BASE, that department, at say 9 o'clock in the morning, where they would send us a questionnaire that was say 20 questions long, and they would say, we need that back by 2 in the afternoon. And when we asked, okay, you need all this research and data by 2 o'clock, what's it for? Oh, well, we're having a cabinet meeting at 3:30 in which we need to present to cabinet and help them understand which industry should stay open and which industry should shut down. So, this is part of that initial research. And again, as you can see, do you currently have staff shortages due to self-isolation or sickness at 28%? Is a reduction in business activity likely to force you to send home staff or reduce their working hours or make people redundant? 88%, and this was 2 weeks into the crisis.
Yeah, and we'd hope that obviously now people can see sort of light at the end of the tunnel. This thought that there's possibly redundancy and so forth for many, it's kind of moved on a little bit, hasn't it? So this is definitely sort of early 2 weeks into the COVID crisis, and then how people were viewing it at that point. Obviously, it's changed a wee bit now, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, and I think another really important point that we were discussing with government. And you have to remember that they were facing this horrendous Hobson's choice, rock and a hard place stuff, where they had to try and save the economy, but they had to prioritize saving people's lives at the same time. And the questions we were getting and the way that they were trying to formulate policy was to support as many businesses as possible, whilst understanding that the self-isolation and the restriction measures they were going to put in place were going to really hammer industries such as ours. And we were making that point to them. So as you can see on this graph, which was after we interviewed our print management and print production companies, you can see that this is the typical nature of our industry: agriculture, farming, manufacturing, technology, hospitality, events, retail, public sector, non-for-profit charities. Across the board, there was a massive spike and reduction in business. And as you can see from the graph, the only sector that had a small bump was the public sector.
Of course, where, a lot of your examples of clever solutions from manufacturers were targeting the hospitals, ambulances, whatever. So clearly where if your existing business was in that bit of space, then you were going to be okay. And actually what your research reflected was very much what the research of Steve Lister earlier this morning said, and I know he'll talk a little bit about this at the Q&A, was that actually the hospitality events market, which is one of our big wide format POP kind of marketplaces, really was suffering, and there was a lot of concern at the beginning, wasn't there?
Yeah, there certainly was. And as you can see, if I just move through some of the subsequent slides, how confident are you your business could remain operational through the pandemic? Only 11%, 2 weeks in, felt that they could remain operational. We then moved to the next stage, which is where once all of these policies had been rolled out and they put out the CBILS schemes, the bounce back loans, furlough schemes, and so forth, we were providing a lot of information to them about, for instance, how there had to be flexibility built into it for industries such as ours. They couldn't have a 3-month furlough. And we went out and did 20 case studies and had them interview some of our members to explain to them that not just in our industry, but other manufacturing industries, the case where someone would be off on furlough for 3 months would be unconscionable, because if a job came in, they would need someone to be able to fulfill that work if it came in. And that's why things like the 3-week rotational flexibility came in. So as we moved into it, what government support are you utilizing? So as you can see, the interruption loan scheme, as that slide said in the news, only 13% were using that. 50% said they wouldn't use it in the future, and 36% said I will not use this at all. versus the furlough scheme at 82%, deferred VAT at 55%, and the taking time to pay scheme at 20%. So that shows you the teething issues with certain elements of the scheme and how difficult it was for the government to get the banks to play ball.
Yeah, and I guess the government business interruption loan was, as it says, a loan, and people were nervous that if they took a loan, they'd be in debt. And I guess the furlough scheme was an easier option, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this is a key problem for our industry, and it's something, again, that we went through in detail and fed a lot of case studies back to the government on, which, to be honest, between us and several other trade associations, unions, was something of a revelation to them, was trying to get them to understand that for our industry, and also for certain industries like restaurants, for instance, that work is gone. If you are in electronics and someone had delayed a purchasing decision on an iPad or something, that purchasing decision is just delayed until after COVID-19 is finished. As soon as COVID-19 is finished and there's a bit more security, all those people that wanted to go and buy iPads will go and buy that iPad. They weren't going to buy 3 iPads. Now, for the print industry, if you had an order for 50,000 restaurant menus a week for a massive chain, that's gone. That's never coming back again. So we had to explain to them the fact that this crisis is even more serious for industries such as ours, because the work is simply, will only return at best to normal. And that kind of, brings us into the next slide, which is what people were doing to cope. So as you can see, the biggest single statistic was drawing on reserves at 71%. And that was followed by shorter working hours at 40.91%.
Yeah, and this obviously is quite concerning, isn't it? If they're dipping into reserves, then I guess it's going to make companies very vulnerable to going bust, or certainly, any company, and we all know many print businesses are very close to in terms of their margins. This doesn't leave a lot of scope for error, does it? Or for the market not picking up.
No, and I think certain things that have come into place since, so for instance, the bounce back loans, which are a response to directors of businesses when the initial policy decisions and the idea about something like the self-employment income support scheme was that, for instance, company directors of a small limited company would be eligible for that. But once it went through the mill and actually came out the other side, they weren't. So for things like that, they brought in bounce back loans, which help people again and help move the situation forward. And I think overall, from all of our members and all the market research they've done, that there is a feeling that government really can't do any more to help them. And government certainly have been listening to industry and enacting the research and feedback that we've been giving them.
Yeah, I think that's right. I guess, does this mean there's opportunities for investment or mergers or diversification? What do you think? Where does this lead for the print industry?
I think that we've already seen quite a few of about 25% of our membership already diversify their businesses.
Yeah.
So one of our council members has moved into full-time PPE production. And the really key thing for that business is that it's personalized PPE production. And they're making sure, because they're a very reputable and good business, that they're actually making very small margins on the PPE they're producing. I mean, tiny margins, because they feel that's the right thing to do. But a key unique strength for our industry is they can personalize that right down to, say, if it's reusable PPE equipment, right down to the individual, because whether it's a face mask or body covering or something like that, it's fitted to the individual. And so being able to personalize it with someone's name or the brand of the organization that it's for is another real value that our industry can add.
Yeah, I think that's right. So this slide here.
Yes, so as you can see, we wanted to know what the main issue is facing your business once restrictions are lifted, which is where the phase that we're in now. And please, can you rate the level of expected impact on the following? So as you can see, in terms of big impact, the top figure is obviously cash flow at 68.25%, bad debt at 38.46%, extended customer payment terms at 37%, and as you can see, the list goes on. And the real issue, this is the issue facing our industry, is that even with the furlough scheme in place, with the government loans in place, and all of this support, the big question facing many people is, will demand come back into the market quick enough for them to bridge that gap? And I think the stark reality, and something that the government is working very hard to find new longer term schemes that they can implement and develop, which we're obviously providing assistance on as we can, is the fact that at the moment, the stark reality is we're looking at somewhere in the region of 1,000 to maybe 1,500 businesses, in our supply chain going under by the end of the year, unless something else significant is done to sort of give them a cushion.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess, do you sense that there's more intervention from government coming, or do you think that,
well,
this will happen?
They're certainly considering a much longer term plan, because they understand, maybe on a much more specific and intrinsic basis, as Rishi Sunak's announced already, you have this tail down to the furlough scheme, where which allows people to bring people back into work slowly instead of the scheme just ending on a cutoff point. And I think going forward, there will be a number of schemes developed that will allow people to apply to them, that say if they're on the brink or they're on the edge of trading, and again, they can't keep going and they're going to be making mass redundancies if they don't get help. There will be other individual schemes that will be developed that businesses can apply to try and give them just a little bit more buffer to get back on their feet.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. So let me just ask you, as general manager of the Association for the UK in print industry, what's your sense in terms of the future? Where do you think things will go for, the print industry?
Yeah, certainly. I think just to round things up, my overall sense is that what we have seen is a massive acceleration of a trend that was happening already, and probably would have taken somewhere between 5 to 8 years to really gather momentum. And that trend is that we're seeing an increased number of SME printers, and especially high street print businesses, move away from competing on commoditized items. They are placing those commoditized items with bigger trade print houses or bigger regional trade printers that can do that work for them, so that they can really focus on high value, niche, spectacular jobs with their clients, providing consultancy to their clients, and almost becoming like mini print management companies.
Which was mentioned yesterday with the Simon Biltcliffe session. I know that you mentioned it in your session. So it's it's happening, isn't it? That the companies that Steve Lister identified that were making opportunities out of this crisis, the kind of the innovators, they were already doing it. They were already in that position where they were really thinking about these new thoughts in terms of trying to excite customers wherever there might be an opportunity.
Yes, indeed. And I think just the final thing from me, the overall message to take away is that, specifically the Department for Business and the Industrial Strategy, it really wants to hear from industry. For everyone on this call, there is an email address which you can find on the gov.uk website, which I think is intel@base.gov.uk. And they want to hear from industry about the challenges that you face, how you feel that these schemes could be developed, and what you would need to keep trading. This doesn't fall into a vacuum. This information is read, it is considered, and it is fed into policy making.
Brilliant. Brendan, thank you very much for that. Really enlightening. And actually, I think that the next Q&A element with Morten and with Steve will probably touch on some of these issues. So thank you very much for drawing our attention to that. And we'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Fraser. Goodbye.